Today we're looking at the Axial SCX10 version 3 Basecamp, a non-licensed, ready-to-run basic vehicle. Thanks for watching. Today we're taking a look at the all-new Axial Basecamp, which is the latest version of the Axial SCX10 version 3. You can see the box over here, tons of features on the box. I will make sure, of course, as always, that you see a bunch of close-ups. Who is this truck for? This truck is for everybody who hated on the Jeep bodies. This truck is also for everybody who hated on the Ford Bronco body. This truck is for everybody who said, I don't want to pay for stuff that I don't feel like using, but I still want to have a complete truck. It's a bit self-contradicting, but I do think that Axial managed to translate whatever was said over there and put it into motion with this Basecamp. A Basecamp is, of course, it's a bit of an interesting name, but a Basecamp is the point that you sort of depart from in case you want to embark on a journey. I guess in this case that also applies over here. So in case you are new to the RC hobby and you want to have a good starting point to start your RC journey from, the Axial Basecamp could very well be the truck that fits your needs. Also, if you already have a bunch of trail trucks and you're just looking for something fresh that you can put your own body and your own spin on, this could be the truck that you are actually after. A couple of good things over here, a couple of not so great things perhaps, and overall a couple of really interesting choices. Also, because of the difference in price tag, this truck is out on the market for $389, which is of course I think $150 less than some of the other counterparts in the SCX10 3 series. So for 150 bucks less, how much less truck do you actually get? In some aspects really not a whole lot less, and in other aspects well, you know, of course they do cut some corners. So let's go over everything that you find in the box and see what Axial actually offers for that type of money. First off, this Spectrum radio. This is the Spectrum SLT3. This is a 3-channel radio. It has a 3-position switch right over here. Very ergonomically sound, so I have quite large hands, fits them great. There is a foam wheel installed, and also over here on the back you can see there's reverse switches for the throttle and also for the steering. Also, in case you want to tune it down a tiny bit, if you hand the controls to somebody who is less capable than you are, if you are driving it at 100%, you can tune it down to either 75% or 50%, which of course is great if you want to introduce a kid to the hobby. So lots of options on this ready-to-run radio. It has plenty of range. It is a very reliable radio. You find this exact same radio in, for example, the Axial Capra 4-wheel steer. All of your trim switches are mounted on the front and your on-off button is located right here on the back. Overall, really happy to see this included. Also batteries, you will find those included in this ready-to-run package. The thing that you will immediately notice, I think, compared to some of the other Axial releases that I have previously looked at, is the complete lack of stickers. So there's no stickers included whatsoever with this truck. For some people that might be really well, like a minus in the scorecard. So I think as well it would be nice to just see a couple of stickers included, just so you could personalize your truck just a tiny bit, make it stand out on the trails. A lot of this hobby is about customization and personalization, and I think that in not including any stickers they might have just cheaped out a tiny bit too much. Very clear manual. If you are not familiar with RC trucks at all, make sure that you read this. If you want to troubleshoot your truck in case it doesn't do what it is supposed to do, you will most likely also find the solution to your issues in this here booklet. So take care of this, do not throw it away. I've already pulled the body clips. There are 4 body clips protruding from the body shell, which is a pretty generic looking one. If you look at it from the profile, it looks like, I guess, a tiny bit of a Toyota Tacoma. From the front it also has some Dodge inspired features, I think, in those headlight stickers. It also has a couple of Ford Ranger inspired type of features, and overall I don't think that this will rub anyone the wrong way at all. The Basecamp is offered in 3 different colors. I got the green one, but there is also a very light gray one and also a Toyota Tacoma bluish version that you see on the box right over here. So you can just pick your taste and go from there. I think that the body shell that they threw on here is more like to dress it up and to just offer a complete truck rather than this really being a thing, if that makes any sense. So this truck caters to those who want to have an SCX10 chassis, who don't want to have the 2-speed gearbox, and who do not care to pay for any licensing of any sort. And that's the body that you see over here. I do think that it has some potential. So if you would, for example, 3D print some wing mirrors, some headlight clusters, rock sliders, stuff like that, this could look absolutely great. It could even have like a drop path, camper topper, you name it. The sky is the limit. The only thing I really wish that I would have done is keep these windows clear. I fully understand that in making it as basic as possible and also keeping that price tag as low as possible, there is no included interior panel, but just to have that see-through effect through those windows would add a tremendous amount of scale likeness. And I think that it lacks it with these non-transparent window stickers and also all of that paint on the inside. I will see if I can remove that to see if we can still use this body, turn it into something that looks a tiny bit more appealing and a tiny bit more personal than it does right out of the box. Okay, let's take it off and look at the main event, which is of course the chassis. Now there are a lot of familiar things, but there's also a couple of new things featured in this SCX10 Basecamp. Let's start from the front and work our way back and see what we find, and also point out some of the differences with some of the previous more familiar perhaps versions of the SCX10 version 3. The first thing you will see are these DeMello off-road front and rear bumpers with some D-links. The front bumper also has an opening for a fairlead, and you will see that you can position a winch servo right behind it. So if you want to trick it out immediately and go and use that 3rd channel on your Spectrum radio, you can do that by mounting a servo over here, leading the fairlead right through here and putting that DeMello off-road bumper that is fully licensed to some good use. If you do want to run the truck immediately, and this is also a tiny bit of a downside I guess, you do need to reposition your front bumper. So you do need to take out the set screws in the bottom, pull it out fully in order to have all the clearance that you require to run the truck, because as it is set up currently or out of the box, you will have a ton of rubbing issues with the front bumper. Over here, familiar looking steering servo with a metal servo horn, and also I think a great improvement over some of the previous versions that we've seen, this metal panhard mount. This was a part that used to cause a ton of issues. When the SCX10 version 3 was introduced, this was a plastic part, and if you would have the end points of your servo set up wrong or ran like a different servo horn, you were really prone to shearing off the entire end of that panhard mount. No more with this, completely done in metal, and also of course it adds a lot of stiffness, takes out some of the flex from the front in the front axle, swinging from left to right. So all of that stuff's good. You will also see that there are some brand new shocks mounted on this chassis. So aluminum body and an aluminum cap, they look really neutral. It is a clear aluminum, so you can kind of interpret this any way you want, just like that body. If you would add a King sticker, this could be a King shock. If you would add an Icon sticker, this could be an Icon shock. You are completely at liberty to do with this as you please. A lot of the other stuff looks incredibly familiar, like for example these shock hoops. Those of course nothing new over there. The frame rails, those are completely familiar, so they are split in two. You can adjust the length. If you want to mount perhaps a different wheelbase body, you can do all of that stuff as you wish. So in that it offers a great amount of flexibility. Speaking of flexibility, you do lose that with, for example, these links. On the other versions of the SCX10 version 3, you will find that these links are all directional. So you can actually adjust them while they are on the truck, meaning that one of the rod ends is threaded on counterclockwise and one of them is threaded on clockwise. If you then keep them on the truck, you can just twist the link itself in order to adjust the length. These are non-directional links, so all of this stuff is spun on clockwise. So if you want to adjust the length of these links, you need to take them off the truck, measure them, adjust them to your needs, and then put them back on the truck. I hope that makes any sense. All of the pivot balls on the truck are stainless steel, so that is great. They do include a tiny note which says, if the vehicle will be exposed to salt water, it's recommended to enclose the receiver in a balloon or plastic bag to prevent corrosion and operational issues. Word of advice, I would not run it in salt water at all. Not just for those links, but also it has full ball bearings and all of that stuff will seize up if you run this truck in salt water. So just don't do that. Try to keep it as dry as possible would be my advice if you really want to enjoy it as long as possible. The axles are the familiar looking AR45P portal axles with a high entrance pinion gear. All of the hardware is located in the back. So for example, those pumpkin covers, those are threaded in from the back, so none of that hardware will obstruct you in tackling any obstacles. So all of that stuff's great. Really nice compact portal boxes, both on the front and on the back. All looks really clean. If you do, however, want to run a straight axle, it is really easy with this all-new transmission. This is Axial's all-new LCXU 5-gear reversible single-speed transmission, meaning that if you were to change these portal axles out for a regular straight axle, if you want to drop the center of gravity a tiny bit, for example, you can just use the gears in this transmission and use the exact same transmission to get going again. So no more complexity in trying to figure out whatever you need to do in top over here for the transmission in order to swap out the axles, which of course is cool. The 35-turn brushed motor you will also find over here. This of course again is a familiar looking unit, 40 amp brushed waterproof ESC that is 3S capable, and then over here you see, which is very exposed, a Spectrum receiver, so not mounted in a receiver box whatsoever, but I do think that it is splash proof. Of course it does make it really easy to work on or to plug in some extra stuff in case you want to, for example, run a servo winch in the front or any type of other accessory, lights perhaps. Going to the back, again, familiar looking shock hoops, really nice performing aluminum bodied shocks. These are all new and I really like the way that they feel so far. I cannot wait to try them out. It is nice weather today, so right after I'm done talking about my first initial impressions, I will take it out. That will also happen in that video. Take it for a spin, see what it does, and see what it feels like to have it out on the terrain. These Falcon Wild Peaks, they feel a tiny bit stiff. I do really like the look of them. And if you want to change them or put them on any type of different rim, you are out of luck, or you need to bake them off because these are glued to those black Rhino rims. I really like the look of these rims. These are also the same type of rim that you would find on, for example, the Axial SCX6. So that licensing continues now in the SCX10 line. Despite it not being a beadlock rim, I do really like the look of them, and I'm really keen to see how they will perform. It's just too bad you are stuck with this tire and rim combo, so there is no real easy way to change any of that out. If you look at the chassis, there are two different battery mounting locations, one on the opposite side of the floorboard, so you would have your ESC and your receiver on one side, and then you would be able to fit a battery on the other side. The other mounting position for a battery is right over here in a 90-degree angle to the frame rails across the back, right in front of the rear shock tower. I think that I would like to have it over here on the floorboard, run perhaps a short pack, keep the truck nice and balanced. So I think that sort of covers most of the stuff. Looking at the chassis, of course, you immediately see it doesn't have any rock sliders, it doesn't have any inner fenders. There are a couple of things missing, perhaps to what you are compared to what you are used to. However, that performs how I feel about the truck overall. I think it is not that big of a deal because, of course, this does add a great amount of flexibility in what type of body shell you would be able to add to it. Also, these body posts, there's a ton of people who have figured out ways to mount bodies without using any body posts. So you can use, for example, magnets, you can use Velcro. There's plenty of options over there to get rid of this look and also the perforated body shell. Well, I hope this gives you a good idea on what to expect from this all-new Axial SCX10 version 3 Basecamp. I'm really keen to take this one out on the trails and see how it performs. There are, like I said, a ton of updated items on this truck, and I really cannot wait to see how they feel out in the field. Afterwards, I will report back once I start customizing the body. There you will also see kind of my first initial thoughts of how the truck performs, and if I perhaps felt like it lacked in certain places. I can't imagine that it will, because it does seem like they tackled some of the problems that we have found in previous versions, and it looks like they just took out some of the factors that we really don't have a massive need for, and by doing so really adjusting the price tag downwards. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit the like button. If you have any questions or comments about this truck or about this channel in general, don't forget to hit me up in the comment section. I always enjoy reading your comments. If you have any suggestions on how to paint this thing, make it look better, or sticker it up as well, let me know. Always enjoy hearing from you guys and girls. Thanks so much for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.
We're back on.